Chris Martin just learned the brutal cost of taking Dakota Johnson for granted, and his reaction is destroying everything he built. We're about to dive into obsessive playlist listening, desperate attempts to reach her through friends, and Dakota's savage response that has the internet in complete shock. I'm going to show you exactly how Dakota Johnson buried her past with Chris Martin, and why the man she chose instead proves she won this breakup in every possible way. Ladies, we need to have a serious conversation about what just went down with Dakota Johnson. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a masterclass in recognizing your worth and walking away from someone who doesn't deserve you. How many of us have been in a relationship where we became someone's emotional support system? Where we gave and gave until we had nothing left? Well, Dakota Johnson just showed us exactly what happens when you finally say enough is enough. After 8 years of an on and off relationship, Dakota has officially walked away from Chris Martin. But here's what the tabloids aren't telling you. This wasn't just a typical celebrity breakup. This was a woman finally choosing herself over a man who had turned her into his personal therapist instead of treating her like a partner. Let me paint you the real picture of what was happening behind closed doors. Sources close to the couple reveal that Chris had become dangerously dependent on Dakota. We're not talking about normal relationship support here. This was a grown man who needed constant validation, constant reassurance, and constant emotional labor from a woman who was trying to build her own empire. Think about it. Here's Dakota in her prime Hollywood era. She's booking major films, building her career, establishing herself as a serious actress. And meanwhile, she's got a partner who's treating her like his emotional life support system instead of celebrating her success. We've all been there, haven't we? That moment when you realize you're giving everything and getting crumbs in return. That moment when you understand you've shrunk yourself to fit into someone else's life instead of building your own. But here's where Dakota's story gets absolutely legendary. Instead of staying and trying to fix a man who didn't want to fix himself, she made a choice. She chose her peace. She chose her career. She chose her future. And Chris Martin? Well, let's just say he's learning the hard way what happens when you take a queen for granted. Reports are now surfacing that Chris is having what can only be described as a complete breakdown. He's allegedly been reaching out to mutual friends, trying to get messages to Dakota. He's obsessively listening to old playlists they shared. One source even claims he told people he made the biggest mistake of his life. Ladies, does this sound familiar? The man who couldn't appreciate what he had suddenly realizes what he's lost, but only after it's too late. But here's the part that's giving me life. Dakota's response to all of this. While Chris is spiraling, she's out here living her absolute best single life. She's been spotted at exclusive events, wearing killer outfits, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from finally putting yourself first. And then there's the Pedro Pascal situation. Now, I want to be clear. We're dealing with rumors here, but the chemistry between Dakota and her materialist co-star has been undeniable during their press tour. Sources are claiming they've been spotted together looking way too comfortable for just friends. Think about the contrast here. Chris Martin, the man who wrote songs about fixing people, couldn't fix his own issues. But Pedro Pascal? He's known for being incredibly private, respectful, and from what insiders say, he's completely smitten with Dakota's independence, not trying to dim it. This is what it looks like when you stop accepting less than you deserve. Dakota didn't just leave Chris Martin, she upgraded her entire existence. Now let's talk about the real reasons this relationship was doomed from the start, because there are lessons here for all of us. First, there was the fundamental incompatibility that no amount of love can fix. Chris, already a father to 2 children, was done with that chapter of his life. Dakota was still figuring out what she wanted. You can't build a future with someone when you're not even reading the same book, let alone the same page. Second, their career trajectories were pulling them in completely different directions. She's ascending in Hollywood, building her brand, taking on challenging roles. He's settled into his comfortable, middle-aged rock star routine. When one person is growing and the other is coasting, resentment is inevitable. But the biggest issue? The emotional labor imbalance. Dakota had become Chris's emotional manager, his support system, his validation source. That's not a partnership. That's a full-time job you're not getting paid for. How many of us have been in relationships where we felt more like a therapist than a girlfriend? Where we were constantly managing someone else's emotions while our own needs got ignored? Dakota's story is powerful because she recognized these patterns and chose to break them. She didn't stay hoping things would change. She didn't make excuses for behavior that was draining her. She simply decided she deserved better and acted on it. Even Dakota's family dynamics play into this story. Her mother, Melanie Griffith, is reportedly working behind the scenes trying to orchestrate a reunion. But Dakota's standing firm. She's told her mother she's finally happy and doesn't want to go backward. This is what boundaries look like in action. Even when family pressure is involved, even when it would be easier to go back to what's familiar, she's choosing her own path. The maturity both Dakota and Chris have shown publicly is actually refreshing. No messy social media wars, no leaked conversations, just a clean break that speaks volumes about who they are as people. But make no mistake, just because it's been handled with class doesn't mean it's been easy. What makes Dakota's approach so inspiring is that she's setting new standards for post-breakup behavior. She's showing women everywhere that you don't have to hate your ex to know you deserve better. You don't have to trash someone publicly to validate your decision to leave. According to sources, Dakota has told friends that her new non-negotiable in dating is finding someone who adds to her life instead of requiring her to shrink herself to fit into theirs. This right here is the energy we all need to channel. She's looking for a partner, not a project. Someone who celebrates her success instead of feeling threatened by it. Someone who brings their own emotional stability to the table instead of expecting her to provide it. And honestly, looking at how she's handling this transition, it's clear she's not just surviving this breakup. She's thriving. She's using this experience as a launching pad for the next chapter of her life. The Pedro Pascal connection, whether it develops into something serious or not, represents something important. It shows that Dakota isn't settling for familiar dysfunction. She's open to new possibilities with someone who, by all accounts, respects her independence and matches her emotional maturity. Chris Martin, meanwhile, is learning one of life's hardest lessons. You can't coast on past glory when you're dealing with a woman who knows her worth. You can't treat someone like your emotional support animal and expect them to stay forever. The tragedy here isn't that they broke up. It's that it took 8 years for this relationship to end. 8 years of Dakota giving more than she received. 8 years of her accommodating someone else's emotional needs while her own went unmet. But maybe that's exactly how long it took for her to fully understand her value. Maybe she needed those 8 years to recognize that love isn't enough when the fundamental dynamics are unhealthy. So, what can we learn from Dakota Johnson's situation? First, pay attention to the emotional labor balance in your relationships. Are you constantly managing someone else's feelings while your own needs get pushed aside? That's not love, that's codependency. Second, don't ignore fundamental incompatibilities, hoping they'll resolve themselves. If you want different futures, no amount of chemistry can bridge that gap. Third, it's okay to outgrow relationships. Sometimes the person who is right for you at one stage of your life isn't right for where you're heading. Growth isn't betrayal. And finally, never shrink yourself to fit into someone else's life. The right person will celebrate your expansion, not fear it. Dakota Johnson didn't just dump Chris Martin. She chose herself. She chose her peace, her career, her future happiness over familiar comfort. And honestly, we're here for every second of this glow up. The woman who spent years supporting someone else's dreams is now the main character in her own story. And that, ladies, is exactly how it should be. Drop a fire emoji if you're here for Dakota's energy. And tell me in the comments, what's your biggest post-breakup glow-up story? I want to hear how you chose yourself when someone else took you for granted. Make sure you subscribe if you want more celebrity stories that actually teach us something about our own lives. Because at the end of the day, that's what good gossip does. It holds up a mirror and shows us what's possible when we finally decide we deserve better. Which celebrity breakup should I break down next? Let me know below, because there are so many lessons hidden in these Hollywood stories, and I'm here to uncover every single one. Remember, you are not responsible for managing anyone else's emotions. You are not required to stay small so others feel comfortable. And you are absolutely allowed to choose yourself, even when it disappoints other people. Dakota Johnson just reminded us all what that looks like in action. And honestly, we should all take notes.